There it is.
We are live. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Episode 15. Welcome to the Demand Better podcast, where we are here to be your consumer's guide in the health and fitness space. I am your host, David Corona, and I'm also joined by my brother in Superior, Colorado, wearing the Chad Pennington Jet jersey. That would be known as Dr. Bo. What up, Dr. Bo? Chicka-ca!
And we will be joined by Faraz Javid shortly from Detroit, Michigan. In a few minutes, he is finishing up work and getting his way home. Yeah, how are you, Sid? How are you? How is the weather in
Beautiful
good
day
old
in New York
Manhattan?
City. The concrete jungle is hot. It's just hot. We got construction everywhere, so I had to close all the windows, turn off all the ringers, so we'd be in this thing together. So how is Superior, Colorado treating you? Oh, before we move on, I'm sorry. I want to give a big shout out to my nephew, Zachary Corona. We have a new addition. I am now a great uncle. Welcome to Mateo Corona. What's up, Dr. Bo?
Am I allowed to say it that way too? Is that if
You
I
can
say
say it
the
any
name?
way you want.
Yeah, man, it's great over here. We got nice cloudy days. Summertime is here. Colorado's very weird. We had friends visiting last week from Los Angeles, and it snowed a week ago. So it was literally 90 degrees on Thursday. They flew in Friday, and it dropped to 32 degrees and snowed. Had over 2 feet of snow. And then
Sounds like Lake Tahoe.
And then by Monday, it was good. How was your trip to Lake Tahoe? Catching up on everything here,
Oh,
folks.
Lake Tahoe, man. Let me tell you something about Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe was cold as can be, brother.
Hmm.
Cold as can be. We had a wonderful time. My other nephew got married, but it was cold as can be. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. If you don't hike or ski, Lake Tahoe's not for you. But dude, the mountains are unbelievable.
Did
And
you
I
hike
will say,
or ski?
No, I didn't do either of those things, but I will say this, and many of you who have seen my videos know that I had to give a shout out to Dr. Bo because, everything's normally East Coast, New York, I-80, I-95, something like that. I tried to run, Bo. And I forgot for stupidity looking at a mountain when I'm on a treadmill, decided to run. And I realized that I couldn't catch my breath at first. And it took me a while. Oh, dude, I got my butt kicked. Elevation kicked kind of my butt. But, I had a wonderful, wonderful thing. But, Bo, I think we have some very, very good news now for the pod. And I think you're going to just kind of give it to us. So tell us what the new news is, the great news for the Demand Better podcast.
We have a new sponsor that is Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness. The first sponsor, the only sponsor, and spoiler alert, it is my own company. So the idea with Fit Care Physio, though, is that if you believe and focus on your fitness, you can avoid the healthcare space. And that is pretty much what this whole podcast is about. So everything lines up. Our values are all interlinked here. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode as well. So everything's coming together, but that is going to be an official sponsor of the show. So if you guys want to get assessed anywhere in the world, virtually, orthopedic, head to toe, I recommend you do that at least once a year. So you have that conversation, just like we do for our blood work, for our vets with the dogs and animals and pets that we love, our cars that we get every 6,000 miles. Get it done for your body. That's what I'm here for. There should be links everywhere, easy enough to find. Fit Care, Physiotherapy, and Wellness. Back to you.
Hey, man. So listen, let's discuss what we're going to talk about today. Okay. So I really want to get this done. This is about habits, routines. It could be any type of habit. It could be a religious habit. It can be a fitness habit. It can be whatever it might be. There's so many different opportunities here. So we've had people already respond. I've been online asking people. I've been man on the street online. And what I've actually found, and some of the things that I've really, really, really found to be interesting were, first one, a COVID person and a dear friend of mine said for the last 3 months or so, every morning when I wake up, I put both feet flat on the floor and do 10 minutes of slow breathing. And then I slam some lemon water. So that's a routine. Then we have other people do bar, yoga. Somebody, very, very, very famous person, Rob Shager, 75 hard. That's where he was. We did there was CrossFit.
If you want to just quick shout out or explanation of what 75 hard for those not familiar, I think that's a less
Go ahead, give it up.
Less popular one. I think folks probably know what bar is, a fitness group class, but 75 Hard is a challenge that, again, kind of grew out of military and kind of CrossFit-y space from my experience. I actually did an episode on my podcast, Bo Knows Health. Now I changed the name of that, by the way, anyone following along, formerly Bo Knows Stuff. But yeah, an earlier episode when I was back in Southern California with a good friend who was at the CrossFit gym I was at, and I have to look up the number there. But yeah, she talked about her experience at 75 Hard, basically 75 days in a row, no rest days. And you're doing a bunch of different difficult things, drinking a certain amount of water, sleeping a certain amount, walking a certain amount, doing 2 workouts. They don't have to be overly strenuous workouts, but they're just workouts. So there's a bunch of little things. So that's the quick 75 Hard in a nutshell.
Yeah, and then we had other people who were doing 5. My buddy Dave, 5 times 55, 5 days a week for 55 minutes. So everybody's got like this routine. Bo has one. I got one. Ours is a little bit different. Faraz has one. So as we get into this episode, I just want you to think about what you do repeatedly that you think is benefiting your health. Would that cover it, Bo, for you?
Yeah, the big thing I want to differentiate, though, because we've talked about goal setting, the big word that I want to focus on is intention. So we all so some of the fun quotes that I like to think about here is we all fail to the level of our systems. So if you have systems in place that, help us succeed, that's going to raise us up. If you end up, with bad habits or things that pull from the progress, that's where we get into some trouble. That's when folks, and we kind of picked on New Year's resolutions. Yes. When folks say, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds, that's my resolution for 2022. Okay, well, what does that mean? Why 10? Why not 11? Why not 9? All these different things. And again, it comes back to, is that likely to happen if you're not willing to change X, Y, Z, whatever those things are? You're not going to prioritize sleep. You're not going to get a gym membership. You're not going to pay money for a personal trainer, whatever the things are. So I think intentionality is a huge part of what we're going to talk about and setting us up hopefully for this episode. And to me, it comes back to, again, that intention. And we talked about a little in our pre-show concept of, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? If you don't have that in personal training space, and I think we've talked about this before, is the 5 whys. So why 10 pounds? And you kind of like want to say, well, I don't feel so good in my body right now. Maybe that's enough for some of us, but okay, well, let's go further on that. You want to look good naked on a beach so you can attract a mate. So it's really about loneliness. So maybe there's other ways we can go about that. Or I want to be more capable and I'm worried about what I'm going to be like 20 years from now. And I have a daughter that I want to support and I want to be able to walk her down the aisle in 20 years. So that's a very different why, intention, and purpose. So that to me, just going to throw it out there is.
Now, before you move on, can I ask you a quick question? Do we need intention and purpose? Because I know there's people out there who think if I just go walk, I go walk a mile after dinner every day, I'm good.
Well, that's the thing. It's understanding. It's, I like to always analogize this to finances. So if you start saying, oh, this crypto thing is shiny and new, and I'm going to go I have $10,000 saved, and I'm going to go put $10,000 in Dogecoin because that's the new crazy cool thing. And it seems cool. What's the intention of that is to get rich? But are you okay with losing that $10,000? A lot of people don't put these thoughts into place. So to answer your question a little more directly, I think that is it okay, or do we need intention and purpose? I think the more of that we can have, the better. So it's okay to chase certain things. If you just want a 6-pack, there's better ways to get there, which is why I think you and I came up with this demand better concept.
Of course,
folks want a 6-pack, and what are they doing to get that? Maybe they're going and getting a diet pill that's not really going to solve that problem for them. It's not going to get them the outcome. So that's where we challenge folks here and hopefully provide some valuable tools to say, what are the things, what are you actually looking for? So if it is to have a 6-pack, great. I'm not necessarily going to fully question that. And just in time, Mr. 6-pack himself, Faraz Javed, on with us, finally got to his computer.
Yo, that's the award winner.
Oh, that's right. We want to applaud him.
That's the award winner. He hasn't been on since that award, but let me tell you something. I'm honored just to be online. You know,
Ah, bless you guys, man. Bless you
listen,
guys.
Bo, we should get his autograph at some point. You know,
I'll get it along with. Where's my Hall of Fame jersey here? Hold on, I got the light. That's a Hall of Fame. Nope, Hall of Famer is right there. Kevin Mawai, Hall of Famer. That's his autograph. Just saying. But Faraz, you can have this spot right here. That's a good spot for you.
Love
Get on there.
That would be your right shoulder.
It's everything's backwards. So Kevin Mawai's on my right. You can be on my left. You can be the devil and the angel, or whatever. He actually put a biblical verse on here. He signs it with I think it's Colossians 3:23 or Coloss something. COL, whatever
I can see that you're very Bible literate. All right, let's move on. Faraz, what's up, man?
Well, so first of all, apologies for jumping a little late, but you know, when you got to do those grocery shoppings to get the healthy food in, you know, that's one habit that I want to talk about is
I love it.
Not eating out and trying to cook everything inside.
Well,
inside your home.
Corona, should we jump right into that then?
Okay, let's we are now, we've already talked about what I got on social media from people's workouts. This is going to be for us. So for us, tell us what your habits are.
Well, let's go right off of, I'm going to jump in. Let's go right off of what you're talking about, healthy eating. So, and we're talking about, and you missed obviously the intro to this, but we're really focusing on the intentionality of that. What drives you to spend a little bit more money on organic or whatever Dr. Bo said in his latest Instagram, like why and what is driving you there. So let's put that on display, I think, for Faraz. So you're talking about healthy eating. You wanted to talk about it. I'm going to ask you, why do you prioritize healthy eating, and what does that mean to you? Because it's a very ambiguous term. We've talked about, you know, game changers and nutrition stuff, but let's try to stay on focus on what's your intention with healthy eating.
So there are a couple of things, right? And I'm sure it'll differ from person to person. But for me personally, as you guys know, that I work on camera. And so looking good is one aspect of it. Feeling good is another big aspect of it. Because I think what people fail to understand most of the time is that, you know, you're looking good and you're feeling good. That when you combine those together, that's when you basically be at your optimum. And that's what I try to achieve most of the time. And so when it comes to eating, and, you know, Bo, I know you've been a big advocate of that. Actually, some of the things I've learned from you about, like, in terms of like the kind of meat you're going to consume. So you can actually go out to a fast food chain and, you know, get your burgers and whatnot. Yes, you're eating meat, but the quality of meat, is that any good? So I've, you know, actively tried to find that quality food. So if that means if I have to cook at home, then I'm going to go do that. If that means I have to go to a certain restaurant, then I'm going to go do that. Then on top of that, I also have my dietary needs as well. So for example, I don't know if Corona, if you know this, but I majority of the time eat either halal or kosher. So I don't eat any kind of meat product if it's not basically that's not coming from halal or a kosher source. If I can't find any of those meat, then I go seafood. If I can't find seafood, then I just go vegetarian. But so when I'm shopping outside, you know, like at a grocery store, I'm looking for organic products. I'm looking for, you know, and this is where I don't mind paying slightly extra because I know the quality of food that I'm getting in, it's going to reflect in my performance, whether as an athlete, because, you know, I do jiu-jitsu and I do CrossFit. And it really, you can really tell the difference. You know, if you have a hamburger and you go work out and you have a quality steak and you work out, you will actually see your performance. You know, I've noticed when I eat crappy and I go do CrossFit and jiu-jitsu, I'm like huffing and puffing and just like 15 minutes into my workout. And I'm wondering what just happened? Did age just kick in, or did I just, you know, suck at this workout? The root cause of all of it was the meal. The last few meals that I had is now reflecting in my workout. Essentially, that's what's happening. Yes, of course, age might play a certain factor here and there, but to be honest, It's the food that we eat, and obviously the hydration and the vitamins and the minerals and all that stuff. But all of that plays, and that's a good thing, by the way, because when I first moved here to the U.S., I asked Bo. He's like, "Hey, Bo, what kind of multivitamins and minerals I should be popping in?" And he's like, "I don't take any of that." and the reason why he doesn't take any of that is because he consumes most of his quality vitamins and minerals through food, which is probably the best way to go about it. Yes, he
Not
does
probably. It's not probably.
It is the best way.
It is fine.
And that's not just a generic statement. And I want to clarify a few things real quick on that. Is one, supplements should be just that, a supplement to the things you have trouble with or cannot get from real food. But scientifically, this is a statement I don't think too many folks are going to argue with me about, is real food will absorb much better than almost any supplement. So, and again, we are just not meant to be injecting B12 because we don't have enough B12 from the things that we do, which if you're a vegan and you're doing that for other reasons, ethical purposes, blah, 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 there's definitely something to say there that, our bodies need B12. So again, at the end of the day, there's give and take with that. So yes, I do want to clarify that, there are multivitamins. And the other thing I say is most multivitamins that folks take, it's something that a general doctor is going to prescribe and say, hey, like maybe this will help you be a little bit healthier because it's going to fill some of the, deficiencies that you might have on your blood work. And unfortunately, most multivitamins, it's a nice generic thing. Most doctors they want to keep you alive. So they're giving you very generic advice more often than not. Yep.
I think you also have to add in there that the American public likes to do things that are easy.
Right. We all want that magic pill.
Yeah. So I'd rather take the pill than maybe eat something that I don't like. And so that's the way it is. But I just think that we're always looking for a shortcut. And the way Faraz lives is very, very disciplined. And go ahead, Faraz. Bring it back to you.
And I thank you, Corona. I appreciate that. And I think it's important. It's important to have that discipline in your life. Whether because it's going to reflect in everything you do, whether it's in your professional life and your social life, and even in your fitness as well. So, for example, it's funny because just off air, Bo and I, we were talking about how you, Corona, and Bo, your lifestyle is all about fitness. So fitness is kind of like intertwined. So you were just saying there's no way you let a week go by without skipping a workout.
Oh, no.
And so I find that really fascinating. And I strive to do that, but I'll be guilty. I'm guilty, because I'll miss a workout here and there. I don't like it. It makes my day miserable. But
let me jump in.
One last thought on that. I was telling a couple of my friends the other day. They were asking like, "Oh, why don't you want to for example, compete in jiu-jitsu?" And I said one of the reasons why I don't want to compete in jiu-jitsu, at least not now, is there's a chance that if I go all out, I might get injured. And for me, the bigger goal is doing that workout every day as opposed to getting injured and now I'm sitting cold for 3 months or waiting for the injury to heal. So
I got a job.
and I got a job. And also for me, this is what I was trying to bring. The point that I wanted to highlight was, for me, everything that I do, if I go to work, if I eat, I only enjoy it after I've worked out. So for me, the working out completes that whole thing. All right, Bo, go for it.
Yeah, and I mean, you did a good job there, kind of alluding to what I wanted to get to. Again, before you came on, we're talking about not just having goals, not just having habits or behaviors, but the intentionality and purpose behind that. And Corona was asking me, as I think you jumped on, do we need intentionality and purpose? Of course, we can go about doing something that feels good, or like, hey, competing seems like fun, let me go do that. But you have that higher level, what I would consider higher level of understanding of these things work for me, these things do not. I have clear goals. Again, I can cut away. I don't need to compete. I can still get what I need to out of this. I like the practice. I like the progress. I like the constant kind of challenge. So that's where I wanted to come back to, whether it is all of these habits of, And again, you mentioned Corona and I both, it's just part of our genetics, our blood at this point. It's something that was ingrained in us a very long time ago, I think, and it's our career that we chose. It's what we spend our time on of fitness. Again, I would feel, inauthentic if I'm telling folks, hey, you should work out, whatever it is, 3-4 times a week. And then I'm not doing that myself. So yeah, I feel like I have to certainly be the role model and also live up to the things I'm talking about. So coming back to you, Faraz, for a sec, is the intentionality is there. And again, this is something I try to work with a lot of my clients on. And again, you've been on this journey for a long time, correct? Share with us a little bit, if you can, about let's talk about your fitness journey, just to put that in perspective for folks. Because again, I think, and we talked about framing this conversation so that folks can, take where they are. And if you're out there listening and you haven't started at all on this journey, that's okay. The quote that I love to throw out there is, the best time to start was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, or, the sooner the better. So when did you start your journey, and talk a little bit about that so we can put that in perspective?
So, by the way, before you start, for us, I think you should, because we didn't do this appropriately. Faraz is a reporter and anchor for WXYZ Detroit. So him doing jiu-jitsu is dangerous to his career. I just want to lay that out there for you. Go ahead, Faraz.
So, in high school, I was a fat kid, and I think one of the reasons because of that was because mom and dad say you better get good grades. So I basically stopped physical activities and just focus on being a nerd. And I aced that. I got good grades, but the result was I put on a lot of weight. So for me to lose all that weight, I just started, like everyone starts bodybuilding. You go to a regular gym and you start bodybuilding. You have no idea what you're doing, but you've just seen a lot of these videos about Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, and you're like, wow, I'm going to have a Rocky or a Rambo body. And you have no idea what these machines are, how to operate them, how many sets to do, none of that. You just go for it. I think that's like a big chunk of the population when they start their fitness journey. They have no idea where to go, how to start, or even how to which way to head. And so I was guilty of that. I've done that. And I think I did it for about 2 years. And then after not seeing any results at all, I lost a little bit of weight, but not that much. I found P90X. Who remembers that out of YouTube? P90X.
Yep, I think we all do.
So I started P90X. P90X.
And the follow-up to that, Insanity.
Yes. I never did Insanity, but I heard a lot about it. For some reason, I always assumed, and I could be wrong, P90X was more geared towards men and Insanity was more towards women.
My understanding is it was just people got tired of repeating P90X, so they needed something new, and Insanity was the next level of challenge. So I don't know. I never did it myself, but I have certainly worked with a lot of folks who got injured doing one or the other. And who, again, a lot of people enjoyed it and they could do it in their living room. And we're seeing variations of that. And this was about the decade of zeros.
Yeah. Early 2000. I think early 2000 is when.
Yeah. That was when DVDs were still a thing and there was no streaming and
you had like 12 DVDs and a 13th was a bonus DVD.
There you go.
Sorry.
Let me focus this back to something. So again, I appreciate you sharing the journey. And again, for the sake of time, I just want to tie this down to the fact that it sounds like, again, you had a long journey. You mentioned high school and now you're how old? 62, 72? How old are you again?
You just nailed it. 64.
Yeah. No, but I think you and I are the same age, right? So we're talking about high school was late 90s, right? Early 2000s again. So
Correct,
so we're talking about a 20-year fitness journey from saying, hey, I'm a little overweight. I've been focusing on my studies and starting that process. And again, it took you to where you are today. But I just want to come back to the fact that, again, you started to understand that health and feeling good and feeling empowered in your body, that's the intention and the purpose, not just looking good naked per se, but it is a piece of aesthetics of, I think you've been wanting to be on camera as a reporter for quite some time, right?
Yeah, but I also started off as an actor, so I always thought that I'd probably be the next Tom Cruise, but that never panned out.
Never
Right
too
now.
late. Never too late, buddy. Never too late.
Never
It's true.
There's, you say there's a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
fingers
so
crossed. Yeah.
So to wrap that up for a sec, again, intentional habits, and this is something else I want to throw in that when I work with clients, and again, Faraz and I have worked in a coach-client relationship for a number of years. That's what started our friendship back in New York City, Fifth Ave. I've showed those photos before. But yeah, when I work with a client, I try to get them to start seeing these connections that Faraz is expressing so clearly, but a lot of us don't have that connection of when I have Indian food, and not to pick on Indian food, and Faraz, you are half Indian, so I don't want to pick on Indian food by any means, but a lot of folks, when they have spicy foods, Mexican food, Indian food, something like that, curries, they have gastric distress, we'll say, and they're having a response. In you're talking about even the difference between a burger and a steak, how that affects your workout. Most folks just don't have that awareness of, I had this meal and I didn't feel so good or as good as I normally do. So again, for me, when I work with clients, I'm really trying to highlight the fact that it's not just intention of the goal, but it's also the awareness of what my body's feeling. And this is another thing I think Corona, if you want to jump in about, that we say with a lot of new folks to fitness when they're just starting out, right? Most folks don't even realize how bad they feel. They just think this is normal. It's part of aging. Oh, all my friends are having surgeries or back pain, or they're going to the chiropractor.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt. They go to the doctor. The doctor fucking pacifies them. Excuse my language. The doctor pacifies them and says, it's not you, but it is you. I mean, listen, the one thing I love about the three of us being on screen together here is we're three completely different from three different parts of the world. We're very, very different. And we have to break away in terms of getting ourselves and being intentional and trying to look good and all these other things. We sometimes have to break away from our culture. Tremendously away from I can't eat like a Cuban. You crazy? I'll be 500 pounds. I love the food. I'll be 500 pounds. But you have to be intentional about where you're going. When you're dealing with people, it's not a one size fits all. You have to find out what makes those people tick and what's going to work for them, because what works for me may not work for you, for us. Like, I don't want to do jujitsu. And I said that in the beginning. I look at you like as a reporter and I said, he's doing jujitsu. Like, he'd get hurt, like seriously get hurt, and hurt his career. And I kind of look at Bo and me, and we're on this different journey than you are. Our journeys are totally, totally different. And I just find that we've had to all break away from something that we grew up with that we thought was truly real for us. And I think that's one of the most difficult things to do, is to separate ourselves from the herd that we grew up with. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me ask you this. It's actually for both of you. Is when someone changes their habit, to hopefully better themselves, how long do you think that habit needs to play out in order for it to be their daily routine?
There's a lot of neuroscience to this that, I listen to a lot of podcasts and reports and research, and some of the top folks in the field around this habit change. And that's one of the reasons I was excited about doing this topic. So yeah, folks say there's a lot of different science to that. And I think there's, again, with any of this stuff, it's always going to be so many variables, but the overly generic kind of thing. And this is why you'll see at least a 21-day challenge. So 21 days is generally enough if, again, the more intention you have around that habit, the deeper it's going to set into your neurology, to your brain. Some folks say, I've heard upwards of like 67 days of doing something consistently. This is why 75 hard, was something we talked about. 75 hard is an extreme thing. Before you jumped on, Faraz, are you familiar with 75 hard, by the way?
No.
So I defined it a little earlier. I'll define it again for folks jumping on late here like you. Is 75 days, and there's the reason. 75 days because of that neuroscience that we're talking about. However, it's extreme. It's an extreme fitness thing, and again, it came from some military and CrossFit type folks, where it's you have to drink a gallon of water a day. You have to do 2 workouts, even if it's just an hour CrossFit class, and then the second workout could be 10 minutes of whatever. It's walking a certain amount. It's I think it's journaling. I think you have to write at least one day.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff in there. It's a very demanding thing, but it's 75 days. And having talked to a lot of folks who've done it, my challenge back to, and I think the point of your question is, I think folks will take from that what works for them and what doesn't. I don't expect them to continue. It's a list of like maybe 10 different things. So I don't necessarily expect them to drink a gallon of water a day, but they probably notice that when they're doing some version of that, or they're drinking, again, the generally recommended hydration habit is drinking half of your body weight in ounces. So if you're a 200-pound human being, you should drink 100 ounces of water a day. We can start including cucumbers and all these other things, but without getting too complicated. The point of that to me is, again, the intention around that and the days that you're doing it should become something that's sustainable. So 75 hard is not sustainable. Just like the keto diet generally is not sustainable. People have really great results from some of these things. And that comes back to our magic pill. And, Susan down the hall or one of my neighbors here did this diet and she lost 50 pounds and it's amazing. But again, where is she going to be 2 years from now?
Yeah.
So sustainability of habits, to your point, Faraz, because people can do stuff for a long time. I could eat a grapefruit diet, which is, kind of a, late 80s, early 90s kind of thing. It was way to lose weight and things like that. So I could do that and I can suffer through it for a long period of time. However, if there's no sustainability, then we're kind of like missing the boat. And that's where we lose some of this concept. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm sure.
No, I'm going to make it very, very simple. For us, it's individual on basis. And I think the long of the short of it is, what is the longevity of what you are doing? If you're doing something for a jolt, you can keep listen, to have motivation to do something is, and off inception, it's very, very easy, but motivation fades. And eventually it's all about intention. It's really about, there's many days that alarm goes off at 4:10 in the morning. And I'm like, man, I don't want to go to the gym. Okay, I'm going to get up. It's going to take about 30 minutes to get my butt going, brush my teeth, do what I got to do, pack my bag, and I'm off to the gym. But if I don't do that workout, I'll do it at night. Like today, I didn't get up this morning. When I'm done with the pod, I'm in the gym. I'll be in the gym for 2.5 hours. It's about the intention of me wanting for what I want before I go into my own thing. But I think there's a lot of people who are like gung-ho off of inception. And they're very excited. I'm going to lose the weight. And then you lose the weight, but there's no sustainability to keep going forward.
So they gain the weight back.
Right, they gain the weight back. And they normally not just gain the weight back, Bo. You know this very well. Yeah. They gain more weight back.
Yeah. So hold on. Let me jump in. So Faraz, how long did it take for you to be convinced that grass-fed beef was a better value? Yeah. And every time you go to the store and you're faced with that decision between conventionally raised beef or just a burger and, like you said, a grass-fed steak, let's say, or even just a conventional, whatever it is, how long did it take you to, have the snap? Was it 30 times through? It's going to be variable. So I'm throwing that question. I doubt you tracked it exactly and you have a very clear answer, but I would just throw that at you. Like, how long would it take you to make a change like that?
It took me a friend calling out, like you, telling me to start eating quality as a.
But that's the thing is, sorry. So like, again, we're trying to, and again, the big picture, let's take a big step back about this podcast is we're saying demand better. We're trying to be a consumer's guide. And there's a lot of information that gets thrown out there. So if you have someone you trust, and again, that person has certain certifications or things like that behind their name, again, it's a little bit different than Susan down the hall lost 50 pounds doing the keto diet. So maybe the keto diet is right for me. And she did that in whatever, 5 months, she lost 10 pounds a month. Great. But again, there's a huge disconnect, and then comes back to the intentionality of having that conversation of, hey, again, and coming back to Corona's point, I want to highlight, we're talking about 3 different cultures that we're coming from. We're talking about, different religious beliefs, different environments, different things in the way we were brought up. But at the end of the day, it sounds like we all have the same kind of goal, long-term goal. And I think the fact that we have that long-term goal of, we all kind of want to look good for our jobs. It's a part of our jobs, right? And we all, I think, want to be able to do this and feel as good as long as we possibly can. So fortunately, we're in that kind of privileged position. I want to acknowledge that. But I want to throw this question back out, and I want to come back to Corona, because the way we set this episode up, we're coming up next, talk about some of Corona's habits and how he got there. But I did want to reflect on what you were talking about, Faraz, and this whole big picture of the fact that we still are coming down to this thing of we want to be healthy. And we have a similar definition of healthy and fit. And at the end of the day, it's being able to do this for a long time and having that long view. And I'll always throw it back to the financial analogy of anyone who deals with money, right, probably has the understanding that I want to be able to have this money for a long time, and I want compounding interest and all these different things of I'm saving for retirement. So if you're talking to someone who's a financial person and they're talking to you about Bitcoin and, to the moon, and we're going to be millionaires tomorrow, and they don't have a retirement savings, that might not align with your values and your intentionality. So that's where we're coming back to this whole concept of, if we're just talking about six-pack abs, you might not be talking to the right person. So I want to put that in perspective. So let's throw it over to Corona.
Well, my journey is very, very funny because the way I look back at it, I had an older brother whose after school activity was kicking my ass. I mean, that was the thing. I come home, all right, time to get your ass kicking. So eventually he got me into weights, kind of growing up, and he had the sand weights in the basement because for us, this is way before there was, mold. So we put the sand weights, and one day I put a bench on, put too much weight on, and the weight dropped on my chest, and he was like, "Get it off your chest." And then he walked out of the room. And then I realized for me, that's how kind of my fitness journey started. I knew I wasn't strong, and I didn't like getting my butt kicked, so I started working out. Eventually, I went on to college, played sports, whatever. What got me into fitness is very, very basic. I really enjoy helping others succeed. That's really everything I do in my life. The Demand Better podcast is about helping people succeed. My work with Active Plus and working with at-risk youth is about having them succeed. Working with clients is about having them succeed. But my fitness journey has morphed. I mean, as I've gotten older, I'm more about longevity than I am aesthetics anymore. I work out every day. And for us, I said it earlier. Listen, I was just in Lake Tahoe. My girlfriend knows that we go somewhere, there better be a gym in the area because I'm getting up first thing in the morning and I'm going to the gym, even on vacation. I don't care. I go to the gym. It makes me feel good. I'm a normal human being when I do that. And for me, I think I should look like my business. I really, really firmly believe that if I'm a trainer, if I go demonstrate something and I'm on one leg, I should be able to execute that off of inception so my client knows it's doable. And I actually do it. So I'm trying to add legitimacy to my own business. And I think I should look like my product. Could I look better? Yeah, I could always look better, but we always could look better. But in terms of what I do is I train every day. I don't have any specific routine. I do a routine for a certain amount of period of time. I do mobility work. I do strength work. I got cardio work. I got a bicycle in my living room of my apartment. So I do all these things. And the only reason I do it is a twofold thing. I feel better, which makes me a better human being and to be dealing with stress throughout my day. And number two, I'm working with people. I want them to succeed. If I'm going to do it, I should be able to guide them on how it's going to be for them. So that's pretty much my fitness journey. But you got to go understand one thing before I cut this off. I come from first generation immigrants who came over. There was no time for fitness. There was time to work and put my kids through goddamn college. And we weren't going out to dinner. And, because remember, I was born in 68. So we weren't going out to dinner. My mom cooked every damn meal, and there was rice and beans every single day of my whole life when I lived with my parents. If I continued on that same, well, we never were fat. I mean, the food was different, but I mean, it was all home cooked meals. And that's how I grew up. I had to develop this because I didn't have self-esteem in myself, is what first got me into fitness. And I noticed that my body changed and stuff like that. And then I could play sports. I played sports better. But all that stuff really comes back from my self-esteem and getting my ass kicked. So that's really my fitness journey.
Nice. Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I think it does highlight really nicely a way that that's going to push you towards this high value system. So that's the thing I want to talk about real quick, and off of your piece as well as for Raz's is values. So we talk about intentionality and kind of define that, but values and how they rank in our lives is really what comes back to how we are going to drive these habits home. So again, I think a lot of folks have that good intention. Again, we pick on New Year's resolutions. Everyone kind of knows how we're supposed to eat more salads, eat less processed things, eat less things in packages. I want to lose 10 pounds. But if you don't have that value system of, I got to look good in front of the camera, or I want to be a role model for the next generation or for my family or whatever it is. If you don't have that value system, it's very hard to move into those kind of higher evolving habits and stick with it too. So, and the other thing I really want to recognize, and I think all the three of us, we're very, again, dedicated high values on fitness on top of a few other things. But there's a lot of folks who are struggling with time management, struggling with financial demands, familial demands, all these stress, again, work. Again, a lot of the folks I get to help the most are the ones who say, hey, I work 50 hours a week or 70 hours a week. I have a kid and I just need a way to get my body to look better, feel better. And it's already gotten way behind the 8 ball. Go ahead.
That's the issue at hand, though. We as people look at the problem and look at it as insurmountable, and we don't go outside of that. So I just can't do it. I don't have time. When we could actually go and be intentional and try to find somebody who could actually tailor make something for you to be successful. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing where, again, I go on these Facebook groups. I'm relatively new here to Colorado, and I see the community groups and somebody saying, hey, I need somebody to like help me work on this. And like they're reaching out for help. I think that's the problem. And again, I'll call out my profession of physical therapists as well as personal trainers. And we've done the episodes on all these problems that we see in our industry. And again, why we're here as the Demand Better podcast. But that's the thing is everyone knows they need to be healthy. Medical doctors, again, we haven't done an episode on them yet, but there is
you're coming.
there is a gap there of trying to keep you alive and give generic kind of advice of eat less, exercise more. That's the big advice probably almost everyone on here has gotten at some point listening or, here in the room with us. So for me, coming back to that big picture is I think everyone's well-intentioned. And again, one thing I always think about in these episodes that we're doing is, are we just adding more noise to these confusing topics? Our goal is to really simplify and say, hey, stop listening to all these things and listen to us.
I think you're wrong. I don't think everybody's well-intentioned. I think people go in there with these high-level goals that they're not going to make sacrifices to achieve.
Well, but Corona, let me add this. Okay. So put it this way. I believe it's how bad you want it. I mean, I hear a lot of friends of mine go like, oh, I want to lose weight, I want to eat healthy, but I don't have the money or I don't have the time. But how bad do you really want it? It's the ones who really want it bad. They're like, I'm not going to live another day of my life being, 80 pounds over or, can't run a 5K, whatever goal you have. If they don't want it bad enough, I don't think you will ever make that change. For example, Bo, you asked me earlier, when did I make that change? But I think the goal was, or one thing that I did not highlight, why did I make that change? It was because the fact that I didn't want to be fat. I didn't want to miss out on that, the lifestyle that I had prior to being in high school, which was being athletic. I was missing all of that. And I wanted bad enough to make that change possible. I wanted it bad enough to set that habit, and I continue to want it bad enough to continue with that habit. So the goal, I think, the point, in my opinion, is people, if they really want it bad, they will get outside their norms or their comfort zone and make that change. I mean, look, we all have 24 hours in a day. It's not like you have extra or I have more. We all get 24, but we just allocate them differently based on our priorities and based on what we think is important to us.
But Perez, I still think that if you get to 53 like me, I still think you're going to want 6-foot abs. I still think that's who you are, and I think that's what you want. But that longevity is within you, because what really strokes you is being fat, just like it does for me. I mean, in a lot of ways. So it's a lot of our intentionality has to do with some of the things that we have within ourselves that keep pushing us forward. Listen, a lot of people come out and they just, I want to do this, and they don't make any intentionality at all. They just make a goal and they don't follow through with any process. Go ahead, Bo.
What'd you call me?
Bo. I try to say Bo and go at the same time.
Bo and go and go.
Good Joe. Good Joe.
So the thing I want to bring this back to is, again, the concept of change psychology, which, again, I've read a lot on, I've studied a lot on, I'm a big fan of. What you guys are talking about here it's coming up for me is I've seen smokers who have lung cancer, who have get intubated, and they smoke through their neck, their throat, because they're just so committed to that thing. And same thing with diabetics who, hey, we have to cut off your foot because of what's happening to you because of the diabetes. And, they're still not willing to give up the cake or the type of eating. And again, when I said that folks are well-intentioned, I come back to the fact that, the question is, like, where is the line and where is the pain point? This is what we talk about when we start really going in depth on understanding what's it going to take for you to make this change. And this is where a lot of times, again, with clients, I will start with, hey, Faraz, it's our first week together. I'm excited for this journey. This week, all I want you to do is send me how much water you drank. And for the entire week, 7 days, or maybe we do it over 5 days, depending on how difficult that is for you. If you can't do that, just send me, even if you don't make the cut, even if we're aiming for 80 ounces of water, even if you only send me 60 ounces of water, at the end of the day, if you're not able to make that small change, then we're not ready to talk about keto or all these other more in-depth things. So if we can start building, and this is where, again, it's understanding what's important for that person. And the quote that, I see a lot on the internet or whatever is that comes up for me, and what we're talking about here is, before you try to get someone to make a change, you really have to ask them, what are they willing to give up?
Yes, so, that's actually yes.
Yeah. So if you're not willing, again, Faraz, for you, you're talking about you didn't want to be overweight. And we got to change that dinging sound, whoever's doing that. I'm guessing it's Faraz. It's okay. He's getting work emails. It's important. He's an award-winning journalist. It's fine. No big deal. So coming back to it, Faraz, what's it going to take for you to take that sound and turn it off? What's it going to take? Is it going to take me calling you out?
So, just yo, because I value your friendship, though, and I kill it.
So coming back to it.
So let's come back to it. So I'm gonna take the reins here, and coming back to it. You've heard Faraz's story. You've heard my story. Hey, Bo, what are your habits? What do you do what is your intentionality? Where's your mindset at?
Yeah, and for me, it definitely is having this deep ingrained concept of, we only get this one body. Let's not mess it up too much. My long story, I've shared it before, but I'll share it again here, is my father had a heart attack at 41. A lot of stress. It was when we moved from the Soviet Union in 1987 to America, and there was a lot of stress there. And he ended up not dealing with it that well and had a heart attack at 41. So if anyone's been to a medical doctor and, they ask you and they're checking you for your risk factors, it tends to be, how healthy are your parents and what happened to them. So if you have a parent who died of a heart attack at 41 and you're now 38, it's a pretty big risk factor for you. So they want to be very careful in terms of the medicine and things like that, of being aware of what's going on. So for me, that intentionality from an early age, and again, I was very fortunate. My mother also was somebody who was just into health food, and maybe it connects to all sorts of different things. We're not going to psychoanalyze all that, but bottom line is she would have cook eggs in olive oil and pay a little extra for the extra virgin olive oil, and cook salmon on a pan, and like these are things I just grew up with. I also was young in America. Like I would still have spaghetti with ketchup, as an immigrant, and not knowing that, hey, there's this tomato sauce that might be a little healthier, but whatever. But as I grew, I just started and getting, and it was an amazing time that we grew up in, right? Having access to all this information, the internet, being like, and I used to, and we talked about this on previous episodes with Corona, I used to read Men's Health magazine to be like, I want the user's guide to my body. Nobody has given me these resources, but these resources are out there. Faraz talked about, seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. So I kind of saw that stuff too. And I said, hey, let me dig a little deeper in this. And I made it my career. And I said, hey, I want to get an advanced degree in this human body thing, where I can better understand selfishly for myself, how to get the most out of our bodies. But at the same time, I can, as Corona alluded to, help people along that journey, because it's very confusing. And again, that's why we're here. So that's my journey. And that's my deep drive of, understanding, hey, I want to make sure I'm not too overweight. I want to make sure my heart is healthy. I want to have objective measures. And that's something we didn't even get into, of being able to look at and say, hey, these things are lagging, or these tests. And again, if you go to the doctor and this is a big difference. And I've had a lot of functional medicine practitioners on my podcast, and I'd love to get them on here as well, where it's not enough for you to be in the normal range. So let's talk about vitamin D for a second. The normal range within the laboratory is 30 to 100 if you're doing the normal kind of standard vitamin D testing. And if you're at 31, the doctor's going to be like, hey, it's a little low, maybe take a little supplement. But if they're 29, they might start, because it shows up as like red and out of range, that becomes a problem. But the optimal range is closer to the 50s and 60s. So if you're at 31, we should be concerned that we're not getting you to your optimal range. And it's not enough that you're not going to die, but we really want to get you to optimal range. So that's another big driving force for me that I'll finish up on here a little bit, is it's not enough to survive this life, this one life we get. And I think that's what, unfortunately, a lot of folks do. And we're trying to kind of connect those dots of, hey, are you just going through your day-to-day and surviving? Or how do we get you to thrive? And, I've joked about this for a long time, is, BO, B-O, my initials are body optimization. So like, that's kind of, I've hesitated to make that my brand. I'll share with you guys my marketing thing there. But at the same time, it is something I'm very passionate about, optimizing your body. And so, there's all sorts of different ways I want to go with this, but that's kind of my journey and what I'm passionate about, and why, for me, it's a no-brainer to, go and do 30 minutes or an hour a day of exercise, and understanding which paths I should do, how much money I should invest in that. Again, I've spent over $500,000 in education around the body. I don't expect everybody to do that, but I do that so that somebody can pay me $1,000, and then I can dispense down to them and share with them all the things I've learned. And that's kind of the goal, and that's kind of the passion and the drive. So hopefully that comes across every time I speak.
Well, listen, first of all, this is just an incredible conversation that we're having. I think that there's so much more, and there's so much more depth that we can go into this. But let's put a ribbon on this. And I think what we should do here is, I'm going to look at Faraz, and I'm going to say, Faraz, give somebody a takeaway that will help them in sustaining something they're going for.
I guess my takeaway is, make that change happen. Instead of just keep talking about, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this, step in, make that change, whether it's with your diet, whether it's with your fitness routine. And it doesn't have to be all of both of them in one go. Just make that small change in your life and see the fruits reaping. I mean, honestly, it's that, I think, where the biggest mistake what people make is not being committed enough, or not wanting it bad enough to make that change. They'll just talk about it but never want to do it.
I just want to add to that real quick, is for folks, one of the things that they tend to miss out, and this is where we were trying to go with, they have good intentions, but they don't have the right guide. And that's where, again, folks like Corona and myself, like, this is what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to give folks that guide, whether it's in our own businesses, this podcast, whatever it is. So 100% to Faraz's point is, I think there are resources, whether it's through us, whether it's, hey, if you invest X amount of dollars, we want to clarify where your money might be better spent, and your energy and your time, to make those things happen, rather than saying, I'm just going to watch some Google videos and try to do this keto thing. And I hear this stuff all the time. So it's frustrating, but I also understand that folks are looking for that magic pill. So we got to find that way to put the pieces together.
I think there's a depth of expertise in this country, and I think some certain people aren't looking really for the expertise. They're looking for what works for other people, and they think that they are exactly the same as somebody else, which causes an issue because you got to find what works for you, and you got to find how that goes for you. My big ribbon on this, and Bo, do you want to go first, and then I'll close it up?
Well, I just want to highlight what we have down below. We were going to do this in the beginning, but we did this on our last episode. We did the Demandy Award, and we're just trying to highlight folks. And if you guys have anyone you want to highlight who's changing the game, and again, kind of living up to what we're talking about of demanding better from the health, wellness, fitness space, and really making a change and a difference, we want to highlight those folks and offer them our Demandy Award. So I want to highlight James Clear, the author of the book Atomic Habits. And atomic is he, I've heard him talk about this a lot. To Faraz's point, one of the definitions of that is it's actually the smallest way you can make a change. So again, if you're looking to change how much water you're drinking, maybe it's, hey, I'm currently, assess for a few days, and then it's, let's drink 10 more ounces a day. Just add a little bit more and keep building off of that. So whatever that small change you can make is, and having a guide who can help you with that, that's some of the bit of Atomic Habits. And the other part of Atomic Habits is an atomic bomb is a very small thing that has a huge reaction, as if you want to talk about the bomb of it all. But yeah, that's the really interesting piece there. So anyway, I just want to highlight James Clear, Atomic Habits. If you guys want to check out his book, he's been on tons of podcasts and tons of content on the internet that I've absorbed. So happy to dispel that down to you. But also, if you want to check him out, we're shouting him out as the Demandy Award #2.
All right, so let's put a ribbon on that. For those of you, first of all, thank you Faraz for joining us as always. You are the man. The other thing is, if you like our show and you want us to keep it going, you need to write a review. That will help us out. You got to like, share, subscribe. Those are the 3 things that you got to do for us. Thank you very much for taking some time today to listen to the Demand Better podcast. Remember, we are the consumer's guide in the health and fitness space, and we are trying to make your life easier. If you're looking for certain things or certain topics, go back into our older files where you might be able to find how to find a trainer, how to find a physiotherapist. We thank you very much for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Demand better.
Have an awesome day. Get 1% better.